And welcome to our in-depth coverage of the daily space weather here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. First thing we're looking at is Magneto hydrodynamic pressure at Earth's magnetic moment from space. When a solar proton shows up at Earth's magnetic moment, it's forced to make a decision. Is it going to slow down and become part of the magnetosphere? Will it deflect off of the magnetosphere and be reintegrated and accelerated back into the exterior solar wind? Will it get trapped in one of Earth's Van Allen belts? Anyway, this is the Magneto hydrodynamic pressure of the past 4 hours. Like sands through the hourglass of time, these are the protons of our lives. The scale you're seeing here is nanopascals Magneto hydrodynamic pressure, and again, that's for the last 4 hours. That was Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground, scaled in nanotesla magnetic flux density. We're pulling together the Earth and Sun systems. So this will show you the most likely places for high induction and power grids, pipelines, railroads, as well as the most likely places for aurorae. Geospace delta B changes to Earth's B field, ground magnetic perturbations, Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Here's a global measurement of geomagnetism known as the planetary K index. KP2 is the current situation. It's a geomagnetic calm condition for the past 6 hours. Moving to the real-time solar wind, we see a fairly unremarkable solar wind. Current conditions are about, give it a minute, current conditions are about 8 protons per cubic centimeter for the density, solar wind speed 487 kilometers per second. It's been pretty calm here over the past 24 hours. And let's move on. I brought up the 7-day chart here for the proton flux because something interesting that we just retweeted about. We see these 3 proton events here that are very similar to each other. Very similar signatures to all 3 of these proton events. So I just thought that was interesting. That's pretty uncommon, folks, to see 3 events like that that are that similar in signature, and you can see the way they're subsiding at a very similar rate as well. I find this interesting. If you've got theories as to how that can be, well, let us know in the comments. Next, the GOES magnetometer over the past 3 days. And there you have it. It's a fairly operating range at the moment. And let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet. There may be a north one here very shortly. I would venture to guess that we will probably see a North Pole current sheet by the time we make tomorrow's space weather video. Just keep in mind that this data is 1 hour and 15 minutes old from when we streamed the video, and the magnetic environment can change suddenly with essentially no warning. But at the moment, we can expect to see Earth in a North Pole current sheet by the time tomorrow's video airs. Next, the line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. Lots of activity there on the solar magnetogram. And you're going to see that blue line shift down toward the bottom at the end. That's showing the likely arrival of that North Pole-oriented heliospheric current sheet. Yes, the plasma coming out of the sun is oriented to one pole or the other. Earth is about to be in a North Pole heliospheric current sheet. Next, looking at the line of sight coronal hole plot. And we see some more coronal holes rotating in here on the east. It's a mixture of both south and north polarity ones. This imagery also shows the sun's B field in blue. And before I continue on, just let me make sure the stream is going okay. And it looks just fine to me. So here's the coronal holes from the perspective of the SDO. 193 angstroms is a good wavelength through which to view coronal holes. You'll also see a solar flare and coronal mass ejection coming from setting sunspot 2975. Probably the most exciting sunspot of the solar cycle. If there was a better one, let us know in the comments what you think was the most exciting sunspot so far in the exciting solar sunspot cycle 25. Next, looking at flare probability and detected sunspot groups, we've got a new sunspot right down here. It's going to be known as sunspot 2984. Likelihood of major flares still very high, with the usual suspects still there. Sunspot 2975 and its related active regions have not set yet. And this area right down here is a prime candidate for major solar flares as well. So if we're going to see major flares, expect to see them where my arrows are pointing. likelihood of major flares is very high, as these are beta-gamma class sunspot groups, the kind that are capable of producing them. So here we are on sunspots, 1700 angstroms extreme UV wavelength from the SDO. They've remained mostly stable here over the past 24. A little bit of growth to the south of sunspot 2978. But otherwise, solar activity not too dissimilar from yesterday. We've also got some spectacular additional imagery for you here. By the way, take a moment to press like and subscribe wherever you're viewing the video. Thanks for tuning in. Did you know we're on BitChute as well? Look at the views we get on BitChute. 2,000, 1,300 views a day, 1,700 views a day on BitChute. On YouTube, barely 100. Thanks to our Twitch followers, if you're a larger channel, please consider hosting us on probably the world's top live streaming platform. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, we certainly enjoy it. It just works spectacularly. Gamers are pragmatists, as we prefer to see things that work instituted. Things that work like smashomash.com. So visit our link, support the channel that way. Thanks to the Smash team. If you'd like additional content, become a gold or silver member of the Smash team. And welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Smashomash.com. You can find links to our merch and so on there. Thanks to everybody who's supported us. The best way to support us is by becoming a member of the Smash team. There's a silver, a gold, and a gold annual paid-up subscription option there. Smashomash.com/Smash team. So there's the X-ray flux over the past 3 days. There it is over the past 7 days. And again, we had 3 proton events mixed in there. There was an X-class flare on March 30th. And there was a minor coronal mass ejection strike from that, as well as relativistic particles. There's the normal 3-day chart that we typically show, and we saw 2 M-class flares, one long duration peak flux at 1350 yesterday, one shorter duration one with a peak flux around 1740 yesterday. So 1350 and 1740 were the peak flux moments. If you want to make your own custom videos on HelioViewer or whatever, here's a great slow motion version in 193 angstroms. This is a great wavelength. It'll show the very high speed ejecting plasma here. We've slowed it down to 10 frames per second. And you're going to see this plasma go flying. And some of it is headed your way. We've also got another wavelength for you here. Once that plays through, that's the last 24 hours, by the way. 193 angstroms is ionized iron. Yeah, there's a very high iron content in those white areas, folks. Here's another ionic species of iron. This is 131 angstroms, and the ultraviolet emissions from it also slowed down to 10 frames per second. We usually show our solar imagery at 30 frames per second, but when we have special situations like this spectacular M-class series of flares, we slow it down for your viewing pleasure. Number 1, I order you to press like, subscribe, and share. Engage. Number 1, why is there so much number 2 on YouTube? Next, we're going to show you a diagram of the solar system. Here's where things are now. Keep in mind, it is not to scale. Planets are not close together at all. Let's advance this 1 week. And in 1 week, we'll have a gibbous waxing moon. That's where we expect heavenly bodies to be. Here's a star chart. If you're up before dawn, you may see Saturn and Mars and Venus and Jupiter rising ahead of the sun. It's just spectacular. It's a great planetary pileup going on for weeks and weeks. The yellow line here is the ecliptic. The blue line is the galactic plane. That's in-the-sky.org. And here's some more imagery of this coronal mass ejection. We do expect it to have an Earth-facing component. There is a little bit of ejecta here that is not going to miss planet Earth, most likely. Just spectacular imagery there, including the LASCO C3, which is the blue, the LASCO C2, which is the red, and the 94 angstroms SDO imagery. And we'll also show you the view from Stereo A and from Lagrange 1, as it was quite a spectacular CME. Here you can see this multiple different sort of vectors there. One going to the north, one going to the south, and one going right toward the Earth. Although most of the plasma is expected to miss, most of us are expecting a glancing blow for the Earth. So we should get a signal in a couple of days from that, about 2 days from when we streamed this video. And you can see some of the ejecta here appearing on both sides of the obscurement disk, an indication that it is indeed headed toward planet Earth. So thanks for tuning in to the live stream. It was originally streamed live to twitch.tv/smashomash. And congratulations on realizing the channel exists. May that solar wind be at your back as I sign off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news.